All right. Welcome to episode 22. Just me this time. Uh, Clark wasn't able to make it, so I'm going to do a little solo episode here. Um, I wanted to before the games tomorrow. I wanted to do a breakdown of what happened last weekend in the wildcard games, and then give you my give you my sports takes on it, and then talk about the games coming up. So. Um, I thought it was a pretty, all in all, it was a pretty fun weekend. I think my big picture take of the whole thing was that, obviously we don't need seven teams in each conference in the playoffs, but, you know, um, money always wins out on that. The NFL's got to have those extra games. But yeah, it was we had six games and four of them were blowouts. So it was kind of I'd say go back to the drawing board for the NFL there. It wasn't, the games that were good, but for the most part, it was tough to just watch blowout after blowout. Um, and I'm still amazed at how much people blame the refs. The referees became a big point of discussion, not only in the Cowboys game, which came down to the wire, but the Cincinnati against the Las Vegas Raiders game. I think I'm kind of blown away by how much people complain about the refs, and when basically the refs really had nothing to do with why the results were had. And I understand the Cowboys become a big story, but it was just insanity. So all right, so we'll start at the beginning and go from there. So the Bengals Raiders game, I thought Joe Burrow was fantastic. Um, he's really the last, I think, 6 or 7 games. You can see he's really turning into something. And yeah, so I'm really kind of excited to watch the Bengals just because I loved him in college. I thought he was going to be unbelievable, and he's been fantastic. I thought the game, it felt to me like the Bengals could have easily taken that game over and won by a pretty big margin. But credit to the Raiders, they hung in there, and I think it was one of those things where it felt like the Raiders just getting into the playoffs was an accomplishment for them, and they got basically as far as they could go. Um, as far as the whistle, no whistle on the touchdown by the Bengals, Joe Burrow was going out of looked like he was going to go out of bounds, and then threw a touchdown, and then they blew a whistle and they said it was an inadvertent whistle, and well, it shouldn't have counted. And listen, that had nothing to do with it. That was going to be a touchdown no matter what. So I thought, you're going to blame the refs. Like, get the hell out of here with that. That was, the Bengals were the better team in that game, and they deserve to win. I'm really excited to see what happens going forward. And the Raiders, I think the Raiders went as far as they could go, and we'll see what they do as far as hiring a coach, or whether they keep, Rich Bisaccia, who was the interim coach since they fired Gruden. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited to see what the Bengals do in the next round. And that game came down to the wire, even though it felt like the Bengals were just a better team. Um, the Bills Patriots game. I mean, my goodness, that was a beatdown, just absolute destruction. Josh Allen was unbelievable. Buffalo scored on their first 7 drives, all touchdowns. It was basically from the beginning. You knew. I mean, basically from about halfway through the second quarter, once it was 20 to nothing, like it was like, this is over. This is just a matter of by how many points are they going to win by. And so my outlook on, I mean, Buffalo, obviously if Buffalo plays like that, they're going to win the Super Bowl. There's not even a question about it. But I think that was what everybody was waiting to see. That Buffalo team play like that. That's Josh Allen just have everything working, all his guns firing. That's what everybody was looking for, and we weren't sure that was going to happen. Um, I've been a skeptic on the Patriots the whole season. I never felt like they were a serious contender. I said from the beginning, I think that Mac Jones is limited as a quarterback, and I think what the Patriots have, you can win games in the regular season, and you can get yourself into the playoffs, but I just don't think you can win playoff games that way. I just don't think you can win playoff games with a limited quarterback who doesn't really throw the ball down the field, and you don't really have any explosive players on offense. You saw this whole weekend in every game, like the explosive players and the best players on the field, they shined. Like you could see, who had the most talent. Those guys stand out. And so, yeah, I feel like, the Bills going forward are going to be incredibly dangerous. And I kind of think that's the Patriots' ceiling. Like, yes, they need to get some better players, and they're deep. You see now that, against a really good offense, the Patriots' defense is pretty substandard. So, it makes me sad as a Dolphins fan that, that's what the Patriots are. And the Dolphins managed to beat them twice, but they couldn't make the playoffs. So that's a little disappointing, but happy for Buffalo. And it would really be something, like if there's something I'm rooting for in this postseason, it would be, the Bengals, obviously because of Joe Burrow, but Buffalo having never won the Super Bowl, that would be really fantastic if they were to win while all the guys who played for the Bills in the 90s are still alive. That would really be something. Tampa Bay against Philadelphia, man, that was pointless. I mean, that game was over probably in the first quarter. I mean, you knew that, and similar to the Bills Patriots, I mean, the Philadelphia really, that's not a real, I don't think that's a legitimate playoff team. They were the 7th seed, and we're going to get teams like that in the playoffs now. I understand that, but, it was just, as another team, I thought Philadelphia was a little bit of a mirage the whole season. Jalen Hurts doesn't really throw the ball down the field. They're trying to run the ball on everybody, and they had a hard enough time completing a pass. On the Tampa Bay side, I thought that, their defense really showed up. It felt like Tampa was like, you know what, we're not going to let Philadelphia do anything. We're just going to keep them in front of us, and we're just going to run up and tackle. And so, the Tampa defense hasn't played like that most of the season. So it's interesting to see them play like that in the playoffs, and can they keep that up? That's something that they're going to need with all the injuries Tampa has on offense. So we'll see. I thought it was pretty much non-competitive. The Tampa really didn't have to sweat for that game. So not much else to say. Another playoff win for Brady, but that's about it. The Cowboys and the 49ers, man, that kind of lived up to the billing. That was a fascinating game to watch. I'm not really into either. I mean, I liked San Francisco from the beginning of the season, but I'm not really into either team. And if you're a Cowboys fan, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This is what the Cowboys have been for the last 25 years. They're sloppy. They're undisciplined. They miss the little things. The Cowboys had 14 penalties in the game. I mean, we're watching it, and Clark and I were texting back and forth, like, what is this? Good Lord. Could they just run a play without committing a penalty? And stupid stuff, lining up off sides. And, so, yeah, I think the thing that I was concerned about in this game with the Cowboys was their offense not showing up. And that's basically what happened. They had 7 points through the first 3 quarters, and they had to make a mad dash at the end. And if it's not for the Jimmy Garoppolo interception, it's not even a game. It's not even worth talking about. The 49ers physically dominated them most of the game. The Cowboys had a chance at the end to make a play, but, the sports media going nuts about the 4th down where Dak ran with the ball was insane. Get Up on ESPN spent 2 hours basically talking about that one play when the Cowboys lost the game way before that play ever happened. I thought it was nonsensical. The quarterback can run, okay, but as I'm watching it, I'm going, what are you doing? Like, this isn't going to work, and of course it didn't. It was very, very confusing, and the referees had nothing to do with what happened in that game. The 49ers dominated them, and if not for the 49ers making a dumb penalty when they went for it on 4th down in the 4th quarter, we wouldn't even have had the Cowboys wouldn't have even had that chance. And even if they had been able to spike the ball, there's very little chance they would have scored there. So, it's typical from the Cowboys, but honestly, those are both pretty flawed teams. You know, San Francisco should have won that game easily, and they didn't. And as I've said about the 49ers the whole season, they can't play 4 quarters. They played about 2 good quarters in that game. And then they were pretty solid. They were, well, not solid, but pretty sketchy in the fourth quarter, but they got by with it. And, yeah. So, I know that there seem to be a lot of people on the 49ers bandwagon. I don't really buy into it because I don't think the 49ers can play a full game. And I think you can get away with it against the Cowboys because the Cowboys had trouble scoring and committed penalties and just shot themselves in the foot the whole time. But I'm not sure that's going to carry over. The Chiefs and the Steelers at night. That was it was one of those things I was like, either the Steelers are going to make this interesting or the Chiefs are just going to wipe the floor with them. And for a while, the Steelers did keep it interesting. But then we saw the Kansas City Chiefs finally show up. They scored, I think, 5 touchdowns in 10 or 11 minutes of game time, which is ridiculous. So, I don't know if that means the Chiefs are going to continue that or that's what they're going to be next. We'll see. They've been kind of up and down this year, but I think the Chiefs are in a good place. They're playing pretty well on offense. They're playing well on defense. So, we'll see what happens. The Monday night game, the Rams against the Cardinals. I thought the whole thing about Matthew Stafford this entire season was insanity. He's never won a playoff game. Well, yeah, when you play for the Detroit Lions, I don't know if you've looked at their history, you don't win playoff games. So I thought the criticism of Matthew Stafford was ridiculous, and it just didn't make any sense. There's a direct reason why he never won a playoff game, and then he won. So all of the pressure was on him, apparently. And then they won, basically, because the Cardinals were not ready for the playoff game. Kyler Murray looked like, a deer in the headlights. And, the Cardinals played about as bad as they could play. So the Rams didn't really have to, do much to win the game. But you got to give them credit. They won the game and they moved on. But I think we saw an example this weekend. It carried through to all the games. Quarterbacks in their first playoff game, even ones that weren't in their first playoff game, really struggled. Obviously Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray, but I didn't think. Trying to think, the other quarterbacks. Obviously, the better quarterback basically dominated. In all of those games, and I think that's to be expected. It's the playoffs. That's kind of how the NFL works. So, I thought that, I think going forward with the wild card weekend, at least, we're going to have at least 2 blowouts every year. I think that's just kind of going to be the way it is. I told Clark, I said, it's kind of like the first round of the NBA playoffs where there's about 2 good series and the rest of them are all, we know who's going to win. And I think that's going to be kind of the way it goes, especially if the playoffs keep expanding, which I'm sure they probably will. So, moving forward to previewing the divisional round, so the Bengals are playing the Titans Saturday at 4:30. So I think I'm just going to give you some things that I'm looking for in the game. I'm interested in that game. I want to see, can Cincinnati protect Joe Burrow? Because that's basically what it comes down to. Cincinnati's weaknesses are basically their offensive line. And, that's the thing that basically holds them back. They would be much more efficient of an offense and could score a lot more. What are we going to get from Derrick Henry for the Titans? Apparently what I read today is he's going to play, which is good for them. My opinion on this game is basically, I just think the Titans are physically overwhelming compared to Cincinnati. And I don't even think they need Derrick Henry to win this game. I think the Titans will run the ball pretty well anyway. I think Cincinnati's got some injuries to their defensive front too. So I just think Tennessee is going to physically impose their will on them. And, we'll see. Maybe the Bengals can make some plays. I disagree with the idea that, well, if you just keep Jamar Chase, double Jamar Chase, and that'll stop the Bengals. I don't agree with that. I think the Bengals' other two receivers, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, are really good. So I think, you know, I think if this game's close into the fourth quarter, then I think Cincinnati might have a shot. But I just think Tennessee is just going to physically overwhelm them. The 49ers Packers is on Saturday night. So things I'm looking for here, how is, Green Bay's run defense has been criticized the whole year and they haven't been great. What are they going to do in this game? Can they keep, the 49ers from basically, because the last two times in the playoffs, the Packers played them, they basically got run over by the 49ers. But you saw when they played earlier in the regular season, the Packers were able to run the ball and they hung in the game and Rodgers was able to win it at the end. So, the sense that I'm getting from everybody seems to want to jump on the 49ers this week. Oh, it's the matchup. Oh, they'll run them over, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy into that. Like I said before, the 49ers can't play four good quarters. And so they're going to have to do that if they're going to beat Green Bay. And I think Green Bay's offensive line will do well I think they'll be able to run the ball. And I think if they keep this game around 20 points or so, I just think they're going to win. I don't think San Francisco is efficient enough to score enough points to pull this out. I think the Packers will be solid enough, and they're getting some guys back on defense. I think they'll be good enough to win this game. The other thing I had an idea as I was watching the Cowboys 49ers game last weekend was, so Jimmy Garoppolo for the 49ers has 1 year left on his contract. And I suggested to Clark, I said, hey, why don't the Dolphins trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? Yes, you'd probably have to give up a second round pick. That's about all I would give up for him. But, he's better than what we have as far as the Dolphins go. And, I think it'd be worth a shot for 1 year, and then they could decide what to do. Because my thought process is this on the Dolphins. They fired the coach. So the GM is all that's left. And I think the Dolphins are going to have to make the playoffs next season. And I think that's what the GM is going to be charged with. And so I expect the Dolphins to spend a bunch of money in free agency and basically go all in to try to make the playoffs next year so Chris Greer can save his job. It's not really the best way to run your team, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. So if the Dolphins are going to do that, we might as well just swing for the fences. If the 49ers want to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, for 1 year, why not take him? And then, the Dolphins have 2 first-round picks in 2023. They could draft a quarterback then, if they don't like where they're at with Garoppolo. So I don't know. It's just an idea I floated out there based on the way the Dolphins do things. But all right. So moving on to the next game. So the Rams against the Bucks on Sunday at 3:00. So I think the Rams definitely have a chance here because of all the injuries to Tampa. They got 2 of their offensive linemen injured in that last game. They obviously have had issues with their receivers. They don't have Chris Godwin is injured, and they don't have Antonio Brown because he decided to walk off the field. So basically, they've got Mike Evans and Gronkowski. So I think this is this and the Bills Chiefs game, I think, are basically coin flips. I think I think the Rams defensive front can cause a lot of issues for Brady. And that's how you beat Tom Brady. It was how you beat basically any other quarterback, is you got to get in their face, you got to pressure the hell out of them. And if Leonard Fournette's not able to play for Tampa, that really causes them a problem, because I think Tampa's really going to have to run the ball. I mean, I wrote down here, Tom Brady versus Kansas City game plan. Basically what I mean is that, he's going to, when the Patriots beat Kansas City, that's what they would have to do. They have to slow the game down, run the ball, keep Mahomes on the sideline. And I think that's what that's kind of what the Rams are going to have to try to do here. So I think, if Tampa's defense going to be what they were last season? Because that's what I think Tampa's going to need in order to move through the playoffs. And so I think, if Tampa can't protect Brady, this could be a problem. So this, to me, is going to kind of come down to both teams want to run the ball. And I think it'll kind of come down to which team can run the ball and which defense can stop them. but I think the Rams have a serious shot because of all of the talent that they have. The last game, and honestly, this is probably the best game. Everybody's going to be cued in for this game. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. A couple things I think people are forgetting or not realizing how good Buffalo's defense is. They have the number one defense in the NFL. I think Buffalo's defense is really good and underrated, and people aren't paying attention to them. So I think, Buffalo doesn't have to go out and light it up and score 6 or 7 touchdowns. I think if they keep this game, where it's tight going into the end, I think Josh Allen has a chance to do some serious damage. Um, and so we'll see. Can either quarterback be contained? I was saying to Clark, I think this game will kind of hinge on if Patrick Mahomes is having to make a lot of plays out of the pocket and he's getting flushed out a lot. That's a problem because I think Kansas City really needs to stay on schedule, manage the game from the pocket, get the ball out quickly. So we'll see how that goes. But no team's going to be out of this game, and I have no idea how to pick a winner. You would think Kansas City at home, you'd want to pick them to win the game, but I think Buffalo is really hot right now, obviously, and Kansas City played a really good game last week. So this game is just honestly, fire up, get your beverage ready, get your dinner ready, and sit and watch this one. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I'm really looking. This is divisional weekend. This is a lot of fun. It's the last weekend where we really have a whole bunch of teams. We got 4 games, and I think this is going to be fantastic. I'm really interested to see how this goes. I kind of think, I think Bills Chiefs, that whoever wins that game is obviously the favorite to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC, and I really want to see how good what Green Bay is like in this game. So I'm really, really excited to see how this goes. So yeah, will try to get on. I don't know if we'll be on Sunday night or not, but we will definitely be on at some point to go over the games, and preview the conference championship games. So, thanks everybody for listening, and enjoy the football, everybody, and take care.